Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm back with a new layout for the Pinkfresh Studio design team, and I'm starting this page off with a cut file, and this one is from Paige Evans, and I cut it on a paper from the Everyday Musings collection. And here are the photos I'm using today. These are my silly child. Whenever the camera comes out, you know, she makes these faces, and I think they're hilarious, and they show her true personality, and so I could not wait to scrap these today. So I'm going to be using a lot of colors, and so I printed them in black and white. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want to add some mixed media behind this heart. And so to get it exactly where I want it to go, I'm just going to lightly trace around it because I want the heart in the middle of the page pretty much. And then you saw where I was going to tuck the photos in. So I want to put some color behind the heart. So to do that, I'm going to lighten up some of the watercolors here from Pinkfresh Studio, and I'm going to use some white acrylic paint, and that's just cheap craft paint, nothing crazy, nothing expensive. And I'm going to go with the royal blue color. It's really bold, really bright, and so to lighten it up, I'm just going to add a little drip of it into this white paint. And I'm going to wind up doing this a couple times to get it to the exact color that I want. All of these Pinkfresh Studio liquid watercolors are very bright, and a little bit really does go a long way. But when you're mixing it with white, you know, obviously it's going to tint the color a lot lighter, but you still don't want to go too much too soon. It's better to go, you know, err on the side of caution, if you know what I mean. Because I definitely want this to be a soft blue. And it still looks very light, but you can see the color here in just a second when I go to paint on the white cardstock. So this is just a dry, big, flat type of brush, one that I don't use a lot, but it's perfect for doing something like this. And so I have not used any gesso or anything like that on my background, and I'm just going around where I traced. Nothing fancy here. I'm not very good at eyeballing things like this, and so when I want it to be in an exact spot, I definitely want to have lines to trace or to paint around. And so with acrylic paint, it's going to dry pretty quick. You know, I can't do any blending or smudging or anything like that, but I did want the heart to stand out. But I do want to do some blending and smudging around it. And so now I'm going to come in with some gesso. And I could have done the gesso first, but I didn't really feel like I needed it at that point. And my brain goes from one tangent to the next. And so, you know, I think about things after the fact sometimes, and this heart is going to kind of smudge. It wasn't all completely dry, but that's okay because I do want to add some areas on the heart, you know, that are going to be smudgy and blended and things like that. So I'm going to cover pretty much the whole thing, and it lightened it up a little bit, but that's okay because I'm going to come in with some more of that royal blue color, and I'm going to add some water, and some of the paint on my plastic there is still wet. And so it's going to make perfect for nice, big, thick splatters. And that's all I'm doing there with my smaller brush, is just watering it down a little bit and splattering it down. And now I'm going to come in with some plastic packaging and add some smudging. It's one of my favorite techniques. Plastic packaging from any of your stickers or any type of products that you get. I always save it because it's perfect for doing things like this. And so I know where the photos are going to go, and I know that I'm going to be doing some kind of other little cluster up on the upper right side of that heart, and so that's where my main smudges and splatters are going to go. So you can kind of see the look that I've got going there. Now I'm going to pull in some purple. Now, like I said, these watercolors are pretty bold, and so if you really want to lighten it up, just take a little bit of it and really water it down. And that's all I did here to get a really soft purple. But you can, you know, clearly see if you want dark purple, then just don't really add any water or don't add as much. But you can totally manipulate these colors to make them into pastels or, you know, even a lighter shade. So I pulled in some of the pink. I'm going to let it kind of blend with the purple there, since the purple, there's a lot of that light purple color in the cut file there. So I spend quite a bit of time on my backgrounds. I'm going to use my brush just to kind of smudge in a little bit more color here with the purple and the pink, and even use the packaging on top of that. And I use my fingers a lot to kind of help smudge. I'm going to add a little bit of green, another bold color, because I am going to wind up using some leaves here shortly, and you'll see what I'm talking about once I get there. But I thought the green would be a pretty addition to this since I've got blues, greens, and purples. And it's very subtle. They're just splatters. I'm not adding too much green. So I think that looks pretty. I love how that looks already. So I pulled out a lot of the die cuts from the Everyday Musing, the ephemera pack, and I'm just playing around here. My embellishments are going to kind of take a turn here in just a second, but I wanted to leave this part in there because it is part of my process. You know, ideas change. You see something that you want to use and then you get inspired by something else, and you know, it's okay to change your mind, but it's good to have everything out and just play around with it and see what you think looks good where. I knew I wanted to use flowers and leaves somewhere around the photo. So I wasn't 100% sure, but I had them out there just in case. And I'm going to go ahead and glue down just little bitty parts of the heart. I'm not going to glue it all down because I want to tuck some things under it. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and work on my photos here. I'm going to add a little bit of tissue paper from my stash here, and I tend to do this quite a lot. I just like the messy, subtle layer that it gives behind the photos there. And I like to tear it and cut it crooked. Okay, so here's where I changed my mind. I'm going to use this stamp set from Pinkfresh Studio. It's called Embroidered, I can't say that word right, Embroidered Blossoms. And so I chose several leaf stems. They're all a little bit different. And I'm going to stamp them with black archival ink. And this paper that I'm using is from a little notebook of watercolor mixed media type paper. I have a little notebook where I do testing in when I'm trying to mix colors or I try a new product. It's just kind of like my little messy test notebook, and you can tear out some of the papers. And this is just a sheet from that, and it handles watercolor really well. So I just repeatedly stamp those, and then I'm going to cut them into smaller portions here, and then I pulled out my no, that's not electronic, hello, that's manual die cutting machine, because I also got the matching die. So this beautiful Embroidered Blossoms stamp set has a matching die set, and so I'm going to go ahead and cut. I'm probably doing this the backwards way, but it worked for me. I just stamped and then I placed the matching die right on top of it, and it cuts it out. So if you like the look of fussy cutting but you don't want to actually do it, then this is right up your alley, because all you do is turn the crank and it cuts it out. And so here's where I'm going to do a lot more mixed media. I took the flowers, a couple of the flowers from the die set, and the matching stamps are on the stamp set, but I'm not using the stamps. I just cut some flowers plain using the dies, and now I'm going to color them. And I'm going to use the purple, the blue, the pink, the same colors that I've used already, and I'm going to make, or I'm going to color, hold on, let me back up. I'm going to add water to the paper first, wet it with just plain water, and then dip the brush in the color and then touch the water. And the water just sucks the paint off the brush and it just sort of runs and blends. And I think that that creates the coolest watercolor look, because the water and the color do all the work for you. And so I'm just trying to create some messy, abstract, artsy looking flowers here. And I love that I didn't have to fussy cut these out. I know I love fussy cutting, don't get me wrong, but this was fast because you just cut them out on your die cutting machine and there they are. The shapes are already perfect. And yeah, just wet them and then dip a little bit of color on there. So I just kept working. I turned my camera off and kept working. I added a little bit of yellow, and then I took the sprigs of leaves and some green, and I'm just gonna color. I have my fan going. That's why my why my napkin's blowing up there on the corner. But yeah, so I'm gonna kind of give a little coat of green and aqua to those leaves, and then just keep working on the flowers here. If you want to lighten them up, because these are pretty bold, some of the pink and purple ones, I'm just dabbing my brush back into some white acrylic paint and touching it to the wet flower, and again it just sort of takes the white and lightens everything up. I let those dry, and then I pulled out my gelatos just to add a little bit more shading from here and there on a couple of the flowers, and I love how these look. Those were super easy to make. They're actually quite addictive. I wanted to make more. But yeah, highly recommend getting the die set. And I didn't even use the stamp part of it. I just used the dies to create some messy flowers. And I think those were cool. But I did use the stamps on the leaves. And you can see I have a whole bunch of them that I cut out there over to the left. So now I'm just going to play around and see how this is going to look. And I really, really love this color scheme. And I wanted to have some of the stems and leaves stay just black and white since my photos are black and white. And I thought that that would be a nice pull of black and white from those photos. And I don't want to get too crowded around the left side of the cut file where the love is because, you know, I want to be able to read the word, but I do want to have those flowers kind of above it and then below the photos and then to the upper right. And I love that pop of that deep purplish pink. I think it's so pretty up against the darker blues and the yellowy orange color. Turned out way better than I thought. And I thought about, after the fact, going back and stamping the flower shapes on top of those flowers, but in the end I just leave them a solid color. I don't do anything to them, and I think they look pretty cool like that. But you could totally get a different look by actually stamping the petals and things, or you could freehand doodle on there. That would look cool too. I just added some foam behind my photos to kind of raise them up a little bit, and then a part of a 3x4 journal card that I had cut in half and used the other half last time on another layout. So I used the rest of that as a little purple layer behind the photo on the right. And now I'm just playing around with more embellishing. Nothing's glued down yet. Just tucking in things here and there and seeing how it looks. I don't want to do too much, but like I said, it's addicting to when you have all these little sprigs and leaves already cut out. I just wanted to use all of them and stick them in places and things, but too much can be overkill. So took a little break, came back, and decided that I needed to add my thread in. And nothing is glued down yet except the cut file, but I left it open, like here you can see where I want to tuck things in. I started with yellow and added some yellow over to the left, but I'm going to wind up changing that. And I also have some of that darker blue color, and I mixed it with some lighter blue. And I'm going to tuck that in over to the right. Pink, actually it's that lavender color, and it matches perfect. I was surprised that I had that color, but I did. You never know when you're going to need an exact color. I'm going to use that over to the upper left cluster and then start to glue things down. I did add a piece of foam adhesive underneath that blue flower right there on the upper left just to create a little bit of depth and dimension in that space. And I moved the die cut that I had above the photo on the left, I moved it to the bottom right. And I'm going to use one of the layered heart stickers right there in the middle. I took off the sentiment, so it's just the heart. And then I'm going to use a couple of puffy stickers. 2 black ones. There's a circle flower over to the right, and then that little piece up at the top that I just stuck down says love. And then I'm going to complete my title. And I thought that I would continue on with the slope of the heart. And since we have the word smiles here on the gold puffy sticker sheet, I'm going to use that because she is smiling, and I'm going to tilt it to kind of go right under the word love. And then I'm going to use the small puffy alphas in that same pretty light purple color to create the word these. So it's a very simple title, Love These Smiles, but I, already had the word love there with the cut file, and then I had the word smiles on the sticker sheet. So sometimes your titles don't need to be complicated, just go with what you have, and that worked for me. And I like the way it's tilted there to match the slope. I'm going to add one more little detail here. It says keeping it real because, that's what we do around this house. We definitely keep it real. Most of my photos are just of my kids being themselves, and that's real life. And so I'm going to use that on top of that heart. The last thing I'm going to do is add in some gold splatters. And I did add my journaling, but that's the final layout. I love how those flowers turned out, and they were so easy to make. I highly recommend you do that with the watercolors. so pretty. I love this color scheme, but there you can see them up close, how messy and watercolory they look. And I love all those sprigs that were die cut from the stamp set. So let me know if you have any questions. This was a lot of fun to make. This is one of the layouts that I feel turned out better than it did in my mind, and that always excites me. I have lots of layers here and all the pretty colors. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. I hope you have a great week.